Warning: the contents of this video may trigger some individuals. If you hate shotguns or dying to shotguns in Call of Duty, this video may not be for you. Not a single left trigger to aim was pressed during the recording of these gameplays.
What the fuck? Bro, that's fuck.
UAV ready for tasking. Counter UAV. Counter UAV.
Are you guys tired of having to aim your shotgun all the time, having to constantly aim down sights just to get a hit marker and then die because you didn't kill them in one shot? Well, I have a solution for you that is actually pretty hilarious, and that is how to get the tightest hipfire spread possible on these shotguns in Modern Warfare 2 and even Warzone by extension. I'm going to show you guys how to tune these things. I'm going to show you what attachments you should be using. There's a couple secret attachments that you guys should look at that are really going to help with this. One stock attachment that's really going to help mitigate sort of that spread that gets wider when you move around. There's a stock or two to help with that, so we're going to look over all of that. These builds are hilarious. On the Bryson 800 in particular, I used it on El Asilo in Team Deathmatch, I believe, and got like 45 kills or something ridiculous, which it's not crazy. That's not a crazy amount of kills, but that is a lot. And considering I didn't aim down sights once with a shotgun, that is kind of crazy in this game. So it is possible to hipfire these things, but the thing about having a really tight hipfire reticle is that you need to be so accurate. It does, believe it or not, take some semblance of skill. I'm sorry to all you naysayers out there. Believe it or not, it takes some skill to actually hipfire pretty well with such a tight spread. Trust me, it's not as easy as it looks, but if you kind of know how to play, if you're kind of walking around your corners, even with a laser showing, you'll be surprised how people don't really know how to react. They'll try to jump around the corners and you'll just hipfire them and hopefully kill them in one shot. You gotta be on your A game to use it pretty well, but I was playing like a potato and walking around corners, making sure to have my gun hip firing and ready to go, and man, I was decimating these lobbies. It was so much fun. So if you want to try something new, or if you want to be practical and just get a really tight hipfire spread in general, this is a video for you. So I'm going to go into private matches now and show you guys how to kit these out, how to tune them, and show you guys the secret attachments you guys should be keeping an eye out for. Okay guys, so here we are in private matches. What I'm going to do is go over the Bryson 800 and all these attachments that you should be kitting out and how to tune them. And the Lockwood 300 is the only shotgun that's a little bit different because the attachments are different, but this should translate well to the Expedite as well as the Bryson 890. So for the muzzle attachments, the most important one is the Bryson choke. Out of all these chokes, this Bryson choke doesn't give you any additional range unless you tune it, but it does give you the tightest hipfire and tightest aim down sight spread possible out of any of these attachments. The X10 full choke is what you want to use if you want the most range from a choke, but this is the one you want for the tightest pellet spread imaginable. So we can equip that and we can tune it, and the sweet spot is right around this 0.07 inches mark. That's really where you want to be with this one. You don't want to be any more, you'll hurt your sprint to fire speed. For damage range, it doesn't matter about our aimed on sight speed because we're hip firing, so just go all the way to the right for damage range. Then for the barrel, what we're going to use is the rifled barrel, and for this one, we're using this because it gives us a tighter pellet spread, but also it helps with our damage range, and it's the only barrel on this gun that does that. So then we'll tune it for damage range, and we're going to tune it for aim walking speed as well, and that sweet spot is right around here at the negative 0.28 pounds mark. That's where you want to be with this one. For the lasers, we have a few to choose from, but the one to really use, in my opinion, is the .G3P, because you're getting a better hipfire accuracy along with sprints of fire speed. It's a shotgun. Sprints of fire speed is always welcome in my opinion. No other laser helps with sprints of fire speed as well as hipfire accuracy at the same time, so this is the way to go in my opinion. There's really no other reason to use any of the others, just my opinion, because this one gives you the best of both worlds. Now, the real secret sauce here, at least one of the parts, is the underbarrel grip category. And you might be thinking, why don't we use something like the agent grip? Because it says it's a hipfire accuracy grip for those who can't be bothered to aim. Well, that sounds nice, but it's actually not as good as you might think. There's a way to get it even tighter. And the way to do that is use any of these grips, this style right here, like the VX Pineapple. You want to use that, and what you can do is actually tune these to get a better hipfire accuracy, and that is exactly what we want to do. So for this one, for the VX Pineapple, which I recommend, its sweet spot is around that plus 23 inches or 0.23 inches mark. Around there is totally fine. You can max it out since we don't need aim down sight speed. And then for hip walking speed, we can tune that up a little bit, and its sweet spot seems to be right around this negative 0.46 ounces. Now, there's really any grip you can use that has this style, but there's certain ones you need to avoid, like the TV Wrecker, the Schlager Tango, the Hex 40, and the Lockwood Precision. Just avoid those because they don't help as much compared to the other ones. The VX Pineapple, most people probably have unlocked, or the Merc 4 grip, so just use that and tune it for hipfire accuracy. Now, when we go into the firing range to see what we have so far, so you can see it's very tight, but when I start to move left and right and strafe, which is important for a shotgun, it opens up, right? And we don't really want that, right? We want it to stay super condensed, and there's a way to avoid that. So if we go back into our class, if we look at the stocks, you want to use either the stockless pistol grip or the sawed-off mod. It doesn't matter which one. They're both basically identical in a lot of ways. Go back to the firing range and we'll check this bad boy out. And you see left and right strafing, and there's no difference. It's basically not opening up much at all. It's a slight bit, very, very slight, but it's really not that noticeable. It's more noticeable when you spin around. You can see it kind of opens up that hipfire reticle, but this is so tight. And keep in mind, I am at 100 FOV, so yours, if you're at a higher FOV, might look a little bit smaller, but if you're at a lower FOV, it might look a little bit wider, but 100 is a good middle ground. And just look at that. Look how consistent it is if you're accurate. This is such a fun way to run the gun, and it is so tight. I really encourage you guys to try it. Just make sure to use one of these grips like the VX Pineapple, tune it for hipfire accuracy, and use either that stockless pistol grip, or you can use the no stock mod like I said. That is really the way to go, and those are two secret attachments you should be using to get the best hipfire possible. Okay, so onto the Lockwood 300, since this is the only real different one here compared to the other shotguns. Really, for the muzzle attachments, use the Bryson Series 12 choke. This is just like the Bryson choke. It's going to give you the tightest spread possible. And then what we want to do is go to the barrels and use the MWII 812 barrel for a tighter spread, more range. Same thing here. We're going to use the point G3P laser, same as before. Underbarrel grip, we're going to go with the VX Pineapple just because that's just the one I like. I like pineapple, so we'll do that. Tune it for some hipfire accuracy. Then we're going to tune the Bryson Series choke, get that sweet spot right around here. Then for the stock, again, same as before, use the Heist stock mod, which is basically the equivalent of no stock in Modern Warfare 2019. So now if we go into firing range, we'll see how tight it can get with this gun. And as you can see, that's pretty damn tight. It's not nearly as tight, well, it's pretty close, as the Bryson 800, but you can see it's not quite as tight. But this still works wonders. It is still super, super good and super, super fun. And as you can see here, we can strafe left and right, and there's not really any major penalties to that. So that is the way to run this gun. And just like with the other shotguns, like I pointed out, here's how I have them kit out. For the Bryson 890, use the tack fire barrel. That's the best barrel for range, and it's also going to give you a tighter pellet spread. Of course, Bryson choke and everything else stays the same. And then for the Expedite, it's also a little bit different. We're not going to be using a barrel. Instead, we're going to be using the Expedite elbow and the resonance stock collapsed, since we have no stock for this one. So this one's not super tight compared to the other ones, but it's totally serviceable. But for the Expedite, I feel like you should be aiming down sights anyway, since it's probably the one that needs it the most in my opinion. But that is it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. So now that we got all that out of the way, my thoughts on this build, it is hilarious. It's such a nice way to break up the whole monotony of shotguns and having to aim down sights. I know a lot of people complain about it. It is what it is. I still think this isn't the most practical way to run the gun. Like, I'd still honestly rather have a little bit more mobility, kitted out for aim down sight speed, because that's just kind of how I play. I love to kind of aim down sights, kind of quick scope, shall we say, with shotguns. That's just generally how I play. But I know a lot of people out there love to hip fire shotguns, and I understand it's a shotgun. A lot of people think you shouldn't have to kind of aim down sights. I disagree, but I do think there is practicality to it. It's a little more niche, and it's a lot of fun. If you want to try something new, if you want to troll people, you can use this build. It'll work, I promise you. And you can even swap out one of the grips maybe for Dragon's Breath, because Dragon's Breath seems to be a little bit more consistent when it comes to hip firing, at least on all the guns except the Expedite. The Expedite seems to be kind of a weird black sheep of the bunch, but for the other shotguns, Dragon's Breath is pretty effective at range for hip firing and getting those one-shot kills. So combine that with some really tight hip fire spread, you're going to have a really fun time with this build. So let me know down below in the comments, guys, what do you think about this whole setup? What do you think about hip firing on these shotguns? Do you have a favorite build you like to go for when it comes to hip firing these things? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next shotgun video.
Our UAV is orbiting the area.
Sector's hot. Goes around, comes around.